Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're a fan of juicy tales of karma, clever schemes, and poetic justice, then you're in the right place. Today, we're diving deep into the world of r/pro revenge, where we'll be narrating some of the most epic and satisfying revenge stories the internet has to offer. Trust me, you won't want to miss these tales of cunning, wit, and just desserts. So grab your popcorn, get comfy, and let's dive into today's dose of delicious revenge. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy, and subscribe for more stories every week. Let's get started. Karen tried to hijack my wedding, but I had the last dance. I'll start by mentioning that I've known Karen, not her real name, of course, for nearly a decade. We were neighbors in the same leafy suburb. Picture identical, white picketed houses lined up next to each other, with well-manicured gardens, a truly picturesque neighborhood. Growing up, our families got along. Weekend BBQs, neighborhood potlucks, summer lemonade stands, we had it all. However, there was always something off about Karen. As kids, it was her snatching the best toys and throwing tantrums if she didn't win at games. As teenagers, it was her spreading petty rumors and causing rifts between friends. But as adults? Well, that's when her inner Karen truly blossomed. I had met my fiancé, Jake, in college. He was everything Karen wasn't: humble, kind, and always considering the feelings of others. We got engaged after dating for 5 years, and the entire neighborhood was buzzing with excitement. The wedding planning started, and every detail was discussed during our neighborhood's weekly coffee mornings. Karen, who had just finished her certification as an event planner, eagerly offered her services. Initially, I was hesitant because of our history, but under the pressure of the community and to keep the peace, I reluctantly agreed. After all, she did have a knack for organizing things, and everyone insisted she had changed. Our wedding theme was a simple, elegant garden ceremony at my childhood home. I always dreamt of getting married amidst the roses my mom planted and under the treehouse my dad built. We wanted it to be a small affair, just close friends and family, under the very same oak tree where Jake had proposed. The only thing was, Karen had bigger plans. As weeks turned into months, the simple wedding I'd envisioned started transforming into something out of a reality TV show. Orchids imported from Thailand, swans swimming in a makeshift pond, and a 3-tier cake that looked more like a tower. Karen was treating our wedding like her personal portfolio project. She'd often say things like, "Think of the Instagram pictures," or "This will get me so many clients." I was overwhelmed but tried to keep my cool, hoping to ride out the storm for the sake of the familial bond our families shared. Plus, the last thing I wanted was neighborhood drama. Little did I know, the biggest storm was yet to come. The day before the wedding, the backyard was buzzing with activity. Giant white tents, shimmering fairy lights, and floral decorations were everywhere. It was extravagant, but it was undeniably beautiful. Karen was directing everyone like a maestro, ensuring every single detail was perfect. I was in the middle of a makeup trial when my younger sister, Lucy, stormed into my room. She looked absolutely furious. "You won't believe what Karen just did," she exclaimed. I braced myself. Lucy had caught Karen telling the caterer to completely change our menu. We'd planned for a simple, hearty menu reflecting our favorite childhood meals. Instead, Karen had decided that a 7-course gourmet meal, with foods I couldn't even pronounce, would be more fitting for her vision of our wedding. And that wasn't all. She'd switched our simple vanilla and strawberry cake for an exotic passion fruit and guava flavor because it was more unique. I was fuming. Changing minor details was one thing, but this was our wedding dinner, a significant part of our celebration. Trying to remain calm, I confronted Karen. "Why would you change the menu without asking us? This is our wedding." She rolled her eyes and retorted, "Honey, you should thank me. This will be the talk of the town. No one will remember a boring chicken dinner, but they'll definitely remember a pheasant sous vide." That was the final straw. I told Karen her services were no longer needed and that she was uninvited from the wedding. It might seem harsh, but after months of her overstepping and trying to make our wedding about her, I was done. Karen went ballistic. She began screaming, causing a scene in front of all the vendors and some early arriving guests. She accused me of being ungrateful, claiming she'd done all this work only for my sake. Jake tried to intervene, but Karen, in a fit of rage, grabbed a nearby vase and threw it on the ground. My mom stepped in, trying to pacify the situation. She reminded Karen of our shared history and the countless memories our families had together. But Karen was past the point of reasoning. She snapped back, saying she regretted ever helping us and that our wedding would be a disaster without her. Seeing the chaos she was causing and the pain it was inflicting on my family, I decided enough was enough. I called security, hired for the wedding, and had her escorted off our property. The entire neighborhood watched in shock as the woman they had vouched for, the woman they said had changed, was being removed from the premises. The realization hit them all: Karen would always be Karen. With her gone, there was an initial panic. We had 24 hours to revert all the changes she made and ensure our wedding was the way we envisioned it. It was a Herculean task, but with the help of our community, we were determined to make it happen. The morning after the Karen debacle, our doorbell rang nonstop. Neighbors, friends, and even some people we hardly knew were on our doorstep, ready to lend a hand. It was heartwarming to see our community rally around us. Word had spread about Karen's antics, and everyone wanted to ensure our day went off without a hitch. Lucy, the hero she always was, had contacted the original caterer and managed to revert most of the menu back to our original choices. Our baker, a sweet old lady from down the street, worked through the night to ensure our vanilla and strawberry cake was ready in time. Amid the frenzy of re-preparations, Mrs. Thompson, an elderly woman from 3 houses down, came over with a surprise. Back in the day, she was quite the seamstress. She'd heard about Karen's dress drama and had spent all night altering my mother's wedding dress to fit me. When I tried it on, it was perfect. I was overwhelmed with gratitude, tears streaming down my face. By the time the evening rolled around, everything was back in place, and our wedding looked even better than what we had imagined. The event became not just a union between Jake and me but a testament to community spirit, love, and resilience. Post-wedding, the news about Karen's behavior spread like wildfire. Her reputation, which she so desperately tried to rebuild, crumbled overnight. The very community she tried to charm turned its back on her. Invitations dried up, and soon she found herself isolated, with many openly criticizing her for trying to ruin our big day. A few weeks after the wedding, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Karen. She wrote about how deeply sorry she was and that she never intended for things to escalate the way they did. She admitted that her insecurities and desperate need for validation drove her to behave irrationally. She was seeking therapy and hoped one day we could forgive her. While I appreciated her acknowledging her mistakes, I also recognized that some bridges, once burnt, cannot be rebuilt. Jake and I decided to send a simple thank you note for all her efforts and wished her well. But we also made it clear that our paths wouldn't cross again. Life went on, and Jake and I moved to a different city, pursuing new job opportunities and starting our family. We'd often look back at our wedding not with anger or frustration at Karen but with immense gratitude for the community that stood by us. Years later, on one of our visits back home, we learned that Karen had moved away, selling her house at a price much below its value. No one really knew where she went, but the general consensus was that she needed a fresh start, away from the memories and the shame. As for Jake and me, we often narrate the Karen wedding saga to friends and family, not as a cautionary tale, but as a story of love, resilience, and community spirit. We've also made sure to raise our kids with an essential lesson: always stand your ground, especially against entitled Karens. This story stirred a mix of emotions in me. Initially, it was frustration and disbelief at the audacity of someone imposing their will on such a personal event. But as the narrative unfolded, those feelings gave way to warmth and admiration for the community's unity and support. It's heartening to see people come together to right a wrong and restore a couple's vision for their special day. The story also evoked a sense of vindication when boundaries were finally set with Karen, a reminder of the importance of standing up for oneself. Overall, it left me with a reaffirmed belief in the power of community and the enduring strength of kindness and cooperation. In saying that, let's get into the next one. How a Karen tried to sabotage our local bakery and ended up boosting its popularity. Our quaint town, nestled between hills and dotted with classic colonial homes, was always a tight-knit community. People knew each other, greeted their neighbors every morning, and took pride in supporting local businesses. At the heart of our town was Sugar Delight, a charming bakery that had been standing for almost 3 decades. The aroma of freshly baked bread, pastries, and pies that wafted from Sugar Delight was intoxicating. Ms. Elsie, the elderly owner, was a baking virtuoso. Having inherited the bakery from her parents, Elsie had dedicated her life to maintaining its reputation. She was the embodiment of kindness, always taking the time to chat with customers, remembering every kid's birthday and baking them free cupcakes, and even occasionally helping out struggling families with boxes of unsold pastries at the end of the day. Elsie's Bakery wasn't just a place to grab a bite, it was an institution. Annual pie contests, Sunday brunches with live music, and baking classes for kids during summer vacations were some of the many events hosted there. These gatherings made it a favorite among both the old-timers and the younger generation. However, like any close-knit community, we had our share of eccentric personalities. Enter Karen Mitchell. Karen, with her flashy SUV, oversized sunglasses, and a proclivity for creating drama, was a stark contrast to our town's peaceful demeanor. Recently relocated from the city, she seemed to be on a mission to modernize our town to her liking. From complaining about the church bell ringing too early, it had been ringing at 7 a.m. for over a century, to demanding that the local school introduce a more exotic cuisine instead of regular meals, Karen was quickly becoming infamous for her antics. Around 6 months ago, she'd opened a trendy health cafe right opposite Sugar Delight. Named Clean Eats, it exclusively served gluten-free, vegan, low-carb items at exorbitant prices. While there's nothing wrong with offering healthier options, Karen's approach to business was rather aggressive. She constantly boasted about her superior offerings and took every chance to ridicule Sugar Delight's old-fashioned and unhealthy menu. Some townsfolk, especially younger ones curious about the new cafe's modern aesthetics and unique menu, started to frequent Clean Eats, causing a slight dip in Sugar Delight's clientele. While Elsie was the embodiment of patience, even she looked visibly distressed by the sudden competition and Karen's relentless badmouthing. Many of us rallied behind Elsie, refusing to let a cornerstone of our community be overshadowed by Karen's malicious tactics. Yet, none of us could have foreseen the lengths Karen would go to in her quest to undermine Sugar Delight. Little did she know, however, that her actions would set in motion a series of events that would not only backfire on her but also make our town rally together in a way we'd never seen before. It all began on a crisp autumn morning. Elsie was preparing for Sugar Delight's annual Harvest Pie Contest, an event that brought together families to showcase their best pie recipes. The winner was awarded the privilege of having their pie featured in Sugar Delight's display window for the entirety of autumn, along with a cash prize. Locals looked forward to this contest every year, and children gleefully roamed the bakery, tasting various pies and pastries. That year, however, things took a turn for the worse. Just days before the contest, Karen distributed flyers around town announcing a healthy harvest eating fest at Clean Eats on the same day as the pie contest. Her event promised free samples of her cafe's items, discounted meal packs, and a surprise celebrity guest to promote the importance of healthy eating. The timing and glaring intention to distract from Sugar Delight's event was obvious. On the day of the contest, things started off bleakly for Elsie. By 10 a.m., only a handful of loyal customers were present. Many locals, enticed by the promise of a celebrity and the allure of free food, had migrated to Clean Eats. The once bustling bakery seemed unusually empty, with only a few pies on display for the contest. Elsie tried to keep her spirits up, but the disappointment was evident in her eyes. Around noon, things took an even nastier turn. A young employee from Clean Eats, visibly nervous and possibly forced into the act by Karen, came over to Sugar Delight. With a malicious smirk, he approached Elsie's counter and accidentally knocked over a jug of water, which splashed all over the contest pies. The devastation was clear, the pies were ruined. The few customers inside Sugar Delight gasped in shock. Elsie, with tears forming in her eyes, approached the young man, her voice trembling but composed. "Why?" was all she asked. The young man looked down, unable to meet her gaze, murmured an insincere apology, and quickly rushed out. It was at this moment that Mrs. Harper, a local school teacher and regular at Sugar Delight, stood up. She declared that the contest would not be cancelled. Instead, she proposed a community pie, where everyone would contribute ingredients from their own kitchens to create a massive pie at the bakery. Word quickly spread, and within an hour, the bakery was buzzing. Locals brought in fruits, nuts, dough, and various fillings. Kids rolled up their sleeves, parents shared pie recipes, and soon enough, the ovens were filled with the sweet scent of baking pies. The event transformed from a contest into a communal baking day, with everyone contributing and participating. News of this heartwarming response reached the attendees at Clean Eats. Intrigued and perhaps feeling a bit guilty for abandoning Sugar Delight, many left Karen's event midway to join the pie making at the bakery. Even some of Karen's staff, fed up with her antics, came over to lend a hand. As for the promised celebrity at Clean Eats, it turned out to be a semi-famous influencer who gave a brief talk on healthy eating and left within 30 minutes, leaving attendees feeling shortchanged and misled. By evening, Sugar Delight was filled with laughter, stories, and the comforting aroma of dozens of pies. It was evident that Karen's plan had not only failed but had instead strengthened the community's bond. In the days that followed, the story of the Community Pie Day became the talk of the town. Local newspapers covered it, praising the resilience of Sugar Delight and the unity of the town's residents. The event was hailed as a symbol of community spirit and a testament to the power of collective action. Parents used it as a lesson for their children, emphasizing the importance of standing together in times of adversity. Word also spread about Karen's underhanded tactics, and the reputation of Clean Eats took a massive hit. Customers began to question the cafe's integrity and were reluctant to support a business that would stoop to such low tactics. On social media, reviews for Clean Eats turned sour, with many locals sharing their displeasure about the misleading celebrity appearance and voicing their support for Sugar Delight. Seeing the backlash, some employees at Clean Eats, who were already discontented with Karen's management style, chose to resign. Among them was the young man who had been coerced into spilling water at Sugar Delight. He personally went to Elsie, offering a heartfelt apology for his actions, explaining that he had acted out of fear of losing his job. Moved by his sincerity, Elsie forgave him, emphasizing that the day had brought the community closer than ever. Karen, seeing the rapid decline in her business and realizing the gravity of her miscalculations, attempted to make amends. She sent a formal apology letter to Elsie, which was promptly displayed in the window of Sugar Delight for all to see. In it, Karen expressed remorse for her actions and offered to make a sizable donation to a local charity as a goodwill gesture. While many appreciated the gesture, the damage to her reputation was done. Elsie, always the kind-hearted soul, responded gracefully. She acknowledged Karen's apology publicly and expressed hope that businesses in the town could coexist peacefully without resorting to sabotage. She also took the opportunity to announce a new annual event at Sugar Delight, Community Pie Day. A day where everyone was invited to come together to bake, share recipes, and enjoy the fruits of their collective labor, turning a day of potential disaster into a cherished local tradition. As months turned into years, the rivalry between Sugar Delight and Clean Eats cooled off. Karen took a backseat in the daily operations of her cafe, allowing more ethical and community-minded managers to take the helm. Slowly, Clean Eats regained some of its lost patrons, though it never reached its previous glory. Sugar Delight, on the other hand, saw a surge in business. Locals and visitors alike flocked to the bakery, drawn not just by its delicious offerings but by the heartwarming story of resilience and unity. Elsie became a local legend, a beacon of kindness and perseverance. In the end, the events of that fateful day served as a poignant reminder of the strength of community and the pitfalls of pettiness. The town learned that when faced with adversity, coming together was always sweeter than standing apart. Reading this story gave me a profound sense of community warmth and the triumph of collective goodwill over pettiness. It's uplifting to see how a negative act intended to harm can actually galvanize a community, turning potential discord into a celebration of unity and support. The story leaves me with a reinforced belief in the power of kindness and cooperation, and a deep appreciation for the resilience of small businesses that form the backbone of a community. It's a reminder that the spirit of togetherness can not only overcome but also transform challenges into opportunities for strengthening bonds. Time for the final story. The Karen of the dog park gets outfoxed. When my family moved to the quaint town of Briarwood, one of the main selling points was its picturesque dog park. It boasted vast green fields, a winding stream for the dogs to splash in, and even a small forested area where our four-legged friends could embark on little adventures. As someone who cherished the bond with my Labrador, Apollo, I was thrilled beyond words. In the beginning, our visits to the park were nothing short of therapeutic. Apollo made a bunch of canine friends, and I became acquainted with their friendly owners. The dog park community was warm and welcoming, a group of people bound together by their unconditional love for their pets. Or at least, that's what I thought. Enter Karen. Not her real name, but the persona fits her to a T. From the moment she entered the park with her pristine white poodle, Prissy, she oozed entitlement. Everyone in the community had a Karen story. There was the time she yelled at a teenager for not picking up after their dog fast enough, even though they were clearly in the process of doing so. Another time, she tried to institute a small dogs-only hour, despite the park being a public space. I tried to keep my distance, always giving her a wide berth whenever our paths threatened to cross. However, there was one incident that told me all I needed to know about her. One day, a family with a disabled child came to the park. The child had a service dog, a gentle giant of a German Shepherd, who helped him with mobility. The joy on the child's face, as he played with his canine companion, was beautiful to witness. That is until Karen stormed over, demanding that they leave because big aggressive breeds have no place in a park. The family was in tears as they exited, and it was clear to everyone present that Karen's reign of terror had to be stopped. Behind her back, she became a running joke, the queen of the canines, a self-appointed dictator of dog decorum. But despite the whispering, no one had yet stood up to her directly. Most people, myself included, just wanted a peaceful outing with our pets without any drama. But it was becoming clear that as long as Karen was around, that dream was slipping further and further away. Now, I'm generally a laid-back person. I like my peace, and I tend to avoid confrontations. But seeing that family leave in tears was the final straw for me. My background in law, I'm a paralegal by profession, meant I knew the local bylaws and regulations related to public spaces like the back of my hand. And I decided it was time Karen got a lesson in them too. The stage was set for a confrontation, and I was more than ready for it. It was a crisp Saturday morning, the sun painting golden hues across the park as dogs of all sizes frolicked in delight. I had planned to give Apollo a fun day out, but today, I also had another agenda. Armed with a folder containing a few important documents and regulations, I arrived at the park earlier than usual, securing a prime spot near the entrance. From here, I could easily spot Karen making her grand entrance. Sure enough, not long after, the gleaming white poodle, Prissy, pranced in, closely followed by her owner. Today, Karen was in her usual high spirits, scanning the park for any perceived infractions. She didn't have to wait long. A young couple was attempting to set up a small picnic near the edge of the park. Not exactly standard dog park behavior, but they were out of the way and bothering no one. But of course, nothing escaped Queen Karen's eagle eyes. She made a beeline towards them, berating them for bringing food into a dog area. Seizing the moment, I approached, clearing my throat to get her attention. "Excuse me, Karen," I began, trying my best to keep my tone neutral. She whipped around, her eyes narrowing at the sight of me. "What do you want?" she snapped. Ignoring her hostility, I continued, "I couldn't help but overhear your concern. However, there's no specific rule against having food here as long as it's not causing any disturbance." She scoffed, "And who are you to tell me the rules? Do you run this place?" "No," I replied calmly, "but I do know the rules." With that, I opened my folder, revealing a printed copy of the park's regulations, complete with highlighted sections. "See here? There's no mention of food restrictions." She sputtered, trying to find a rebuttal, but I wasn't done. "I also noticed you often have issues with larger breeds," I continued, pulling out another document. "This is from the town council, explicitly stating that all dog breeds are allowed here, provided they're leashed and under control. Discriminating against certain breeds or their owners can actually lead to a temporary ban from the park." Her face was a mixture of shock and rage. She looked like she was about to explode, but I pressed on, "And lastly, regarding the small dogs only hour you tried to institute? The park is a public space, meaning you can't just create rules based on personal whims." By now, a small crowd had gathered, and I could see nods of agreement from fellow dog owners who had suffered Karen's wrath in the past. Karen, meanwhile, was seething. "You think some pieces of paper will stop me? I've lived here longer than most of you, and I know what's best for this park." I took a deep breath, meeting her gaze steadily. "This isn't about tenure, Karen. It's about mutual respect. We all share this space, and it's up to us to ensure it remains pleasant for everyone." For a moment, we locked eyes, an unspoken battle of wills taking place. Then, to everyone's surprise, Karen huffed, gathered Prissy, and stormed off without another word. The tension in the air dissipated, and the young couple, still a little shocked, murmured their thanks. A few others approached, expressing their gratitude for finally standing up to Karen. As the day wore on, it was clear that this event would be the talk of Briarwood for days to come. Word spread like wildfire in our tight-knit community of Briarwood. By Sunday morning, my confrontation with Karen had become the hottest topic of discussion at local coffee shops, grocery stores, and of course, the dog park. As much as Karen was known for her pettiness, it seemed she had underestimated the collective frustration of the community. The next few days were unexpectedly peaceful. Karen was conspicuously absent from the park. Instead of her shrill voice policing everyone, the air was filled with laughter, friendly chit-chat, and the joyful barks of dogs playing without the fear of retribution. It was as if a dark cloud had been lifted. But it wasn't just the park that changed. At the monthly town council meeting, several residents took the floor to express their concerns about the disruptions Karen had been causing. They highlighted her attempts to control not just the dog park but also other community spaces. Given the number of complaints and the clear violation of community guidelines, the council issued an official warning to Karen. She was informed that any more attempts to impose her rules or harass other residents could lead to stricter measures, including banning her from community spaces. The public admonishment seemed to have a profound effect on Karen. Over the next few weeks, I heard from various neighbors that she had started attending therapy sessions. Whispers around town suggested that Karen had been struggling with personal issues and had projected her need for control onto others. While it didn't excuse her behavior, it provided some context. 2 months later, in a surprising turn of events, Karen approached me while I was out with Apollo. Instead of her usual icy demeanor, her posture was subdued. "I wanted to apologize," she began hesitantly. "I realize now that I had been out of line. I was dealing with some personal things and took it out on everyone here. It wasn't fair." I was taken aback. An apology from Karen was the last thing I had expected. "Thank you for saying that," I replied cautiously. "I hope things get better for you." She nodded, offering a small smile. I'm working on it. And thank you for standing up to me. I needed a wake-up call. The transformation in Karen was palpable. Over the following months, she became more amiable and even started volunteering at community events. Her poodle, Prissy, seemed happier too, mingling with other dogs without the constant tug of a leash. The dog park remained a haven for all, but with an added layer of harmony. The incident served as a reminder of the importance of community, understanding, and standing up for what's right. While there were occasional disagreements, the essence of respect and unity prevailed. As for Apollo and me, our visits to the park continued to be a highlight of our days. But every once in a while, as we watched the sun set over Briarwood, I couldn't help but reflect on that fateful day and the ripple effect it had on our community. Sometimes, confronting adversity head-on can lead to unexpected positive outcomes. Alright, folks, that wraps up today's wild ride through our /pro revenge. I hope you enjoyed these tales of sweet justice as much as I did. If you have your own revenge stories or thoughts on today's episode, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on more incredible stories coming your way. Remember, revenge might be best served cold, but our community here is always warm and welcoming. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next video.